The first time the potential ban of TikTok came through the conversation prior to this one, Walmart was a serious contender for acquisition of TikTok. And then that kind of went by the wayside. But I wouldn't be surprised for people to see Walmart continue to make acquisition moves that may be surprising to the general market that has maybe one particular view of Walmart. They are not the Walmart of 2015. They've been growing significantly and they're devoting a lot of resource into e-commerce. If it's not the acquisition of TikTok, it'll be acquisitions in kind. So we'll see some of those things come out.
Welcome to another episode of Human in the Loop. My name is Cameron Yoder, and today I'm talking with Ryan King about Walmart. Now, we've done different episodes, different Walmart-related content in the past, all mostly focused on the conversation around, is Walmart worth it? How do I get into Walmart? My goal for this conversation is to get a couple steps beyond that. And today, I intend to explore the concept of what is Walmart leading in compared to Amazon? And also, what are some aspects of how Amazon is dominating the marketplace as well? And this conversation naturally unfolds into unpacking just exactly what strengths Walmart has and how Walmart is starting to separate itself from the rest of the marketplace competition. And there's some really good points that Ryan has around exactly who's shopping at Walmart, but also the technologies and the different things that Walmart is trying to deploy to set itself apart. So this is not a very early, beginner conversation about Walmart. We cover some beginner type discussions, but this mostly revolves around those points. I think there's a lot here that we haven't really discussed in a Walmart-centric episode before, and that's why I'm excited about it. So without further ado, let's get started with Ryan King on Amazon versus Walmart. All right, everyone, we are diving into the weeds of selling on Walmart today. And in past content, we've kind of touched on the surface of Walmart. We're starting to get into the weeds a bit more as more and more people start selling on Walmart's marketplace. And this episode is dedicated into helping us all kind of take a couple steps deeper in understanding how it's different from Amazon, how Walmart is creating their own unique identity, what buyer personas look like on Walmart, what technology is being implemented to help sell on Walmart, and maybe some speculation for what's coming in the future of Walmart as well. But if you're a longtime viewer of our content, you'll recognize who's on the screen right now, and that's Ryan King. Ryan, thank you again for coming back to disclose anything and everything about Walmart. Before we get started, can you just do a quick intro of yourself for the people that don't know who you are?
Great. Well, yeah, Cameron, always love these conversations, so excited to dig into it. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blue Rise. We are a full management agency for Walmart.com, specializing in digital merchandising for retail brands and third-party marketplace sellers. So we kind of do everything from PDP optimization to catalog management, and trying to apply kind of the strategies about what's coming around the corner to Walmart as a marketplace, omnichannel, for those brands we partner with.
Really good, really qualified to touch on all things Walmart here. I think one of the first, as Ryan and I were talking about what to include in this episode, kind of one of the main themes that we kept on going back to was this concept of how Walmart is creating a unique identity for itself right now. And again, my goal with this conversation is to hash out some things that we haven't really talked about a ton, or that no one has really talked about. Because, as sellers in this space, I think a lot of people are familiar with some of these conversations with Walmart. Our goal is to pull out some of these things that haven't really been talked about a ton. So let's talk about the ways that Walmart is leading, and perhaps also some of the ways that Walmart is following. Meaning, what ways is Walmart leading the charge and innovating ahead of course, comparing to Amazon here? And in what ways is Amazon leading? I think that we should start with Amazon, and then we'll get to Walmart second. So, Ryan, what would you say today, the modern day marketplace, in what ways what things does Amazon do better than Walmart?
Gotcha. Well, yeah, as much as I think Walmart would love to escape the comparison of where are you in relation to the benchmark of Amazon, and I think one day we may get there in that
Mhm.
conversation. This is still a good benchmarking conversation to have. I think one way that, some ways regarding for the shopper and the seller, maybe the Amazon's maybe still out in front. A lot of them have to do with just time in the market on the
Mm.
e-commerce space. So certainly shopper volume
Mhm.
is still, they're still in a lead there purely from the e-commerce side. Probably price breadth and price elasticity on the marketplace.
Mhm.
So sellers and shoppers alike are used to having premium price products there. Certain features like subscribe and save or deep couponing, those things, which Walmart's catching up on. We can talk about that, but
Yep.
um, all these elements that drive value to the cart for the seller, um, virtual bundling, those kind of,
Mhm.
all those kind of elements. Um, Walmart or Amazon's been doing that for a while now, and so the Amazon shopper is used to that. Maybe expects it now, has
Yep.
developed shopping patterns around those features, which overall not only maybe tend towards higher conversion for a seller, but also lifetime value. There's
Mm.
a clearer line to that ongoing repurchase behavior on Amazon right now. Um, and then over in just the depth of the niches, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
You could really drill down deep in search volumes and find,
Mhm.
the saying used to be the riches are in the niches, and talking about that, it's gotten way more sophisticated than that now.
Mm.
But I think those are things that are still a function of Amazon's time in market. You can
Yep.
see it also in maybe some of the advertising offerings and data that marketplace sellers on Amazon have access to, with clean
Mhm.
rooms, all these other elements, more advanced levels, and add assortment in different ways they can do that. Social posting, all those elements. They're just a function of, they've been down the road for a while in
Yeah.
developing these second order kind of features on the
Mm.
marketplace.
It's to add to this. I mean, the time as number one has given Amazon a huge lead. We all know that. It's interesting to see Amazon's strategy in kind of creating a hedge around them for the buyer. Uh, so like the acquisition of Thursday Night Football, streaming TV, the creation of TVs that have Fire on them. Like these are all examples of modern day ways that Amazon is trying to kind of just the same in the same way that Prime shipping became like the staple for keeping people on board, adding these different things to this whole entire ecosystem to to basically give people no choice but to shop at Amazon, almost like Uber. Like
Mhm.
people refuse to take a taxi, they'll pay more for an Uber probably just for the experience itself, or almost where it's irreplaceable. It's hard to beat that. But there are things that Walmart is doing, and that's what the goal of this is, to highlight that. So I think those are really good call outs. So talking about what Walmart is doing better,
Yep.
how is Walmart starting to move ahead in certain ways and differentiate themselves?
Yeah. So the area, if we're going to talk first with kind of apples to apples of time in market and where that gives advantage, I would
Mm.
say the the, the ongoing advantage Walmart has is its physical footprint.
Mm.
Over 4,000 locations in the U.S. alone, of various sizes, but most of those are super centers. Most of those with the capability to fulfill directly from store, or whether they have strictly e-commerce fulfillment centers as well. Being within 10 minutes of majority of the population in the U.S. Through their physical footprint is still an advantage.
Mm.
Where Walmart has always excelled in the retail and grocery space specifically. They've outpaced and stay outpaced from Amazon and even Target, some of these others, when it
Mm.
comes to grocery. Target's kind of general merchandise and maybe higher scale merchandise kind of, and they happen to have grocery too. Walmart's always been known as a discount grocer or a everyday low price grocer that also has physical goods.
Mm.
But the the grocery and the perishable side of things, they're way ahead of
Mhm.
Amazon, even though Amazon acquired Whole Foods and these other elements. And so that is one of the backbones they continue to build off of when they go this omni-channel play. You can, the biggest growth factors they've shown in revenue growth has been with regard to e-commerce even.
Mm-hmm.
E-commerce is a major factor in their year-over-year growth, quarter-over-quarter growth, and then order for pickup and delivery from their stores, largely grocery driven, is a major contributor to that. So they're highlighting their strengths there and what they can do,
Yeah.
and then leveraging those for the broader assortment and the broader shopper.
Yeah. I want to touch on that real quick, just to expand on that.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot to talk about and unpack with this idea of like retail accessibility, right? And I think I've heard sellers approach this in a couple different ways of thinking. One is because Walmart has a lot of retail stores, that means that eventually or now, I as a seller will have access to all of these retail shops, easier to get into retail, more access points to more people, etc. There's another train of thinking that maybe doesn't agree with that, but that says because I sell grocery, I will be at an advantage. In other words, like there's a camp that's like, Walmart eventually will reach this point of everything being accessible because of those retail shops. Another camp that's like, well, it might only be grocery that is at an advantage for these retail shops. And those aren't the only two mentalities, but that's one point discussion that I see a lot of sellers having. What do you think? I mean, this might lead into a little bit of the speculation side, but do you see Walmart trying to bring that like retail accessible to everyone, or is it mostly like we're gonna stick to our guns and go forward with like grocery as an advantage for this type of thing?
Yeah. So, and we can hop back and forth between speculation and what is, but certainly broader trends, even outside of Walmart, is to omnichannel. Just, whether you call it, there's a lot of debate even around the term e-commerce versus commerce. Should it just be called commerce now versus e-commerce? What is this shopper experience, and how do they relate to where they see it and where it's delivered from, and all those pieces. And so there's no question the trend is headed that way. How that affects Walmart, my thoughts on, will all e-commerce assortment be available in retail stores? I think my simple answer is no. There's just a function of space.
Yep.
The attractiveness of the third-party marketplace, especially, or even 1P marketplace for retail brands where they may be fulfilling just from an e-commerce fulfillment center, not directly in brick and mortar with Walmart, is kind of this idea of the endless shelf or the endless aisle. And the digital aisle is much larger than the linear foot you can get in any physical brick and mortar store.
Right.
However, there's no way to directly translate that to, will I have, if you're thinking I can have my physical product in a physical store if I'm an e-commerce seller on Walmart and I'll get into a store, there is still going to be a limited quantity of products that can be sold in any given store. I think there will be continued experiments of what does that look like? What does that blended environment look like? Things like, do you get an item in store and then your broader assortment somehow is more seamlessly integrated so that they can order at the point of sale there in store and see your broader assortment? I certainly see 1P brands, retail brands doing that. And so I do think also it gives an additional chance to sellers. And I think the first qualifying question we'd ask a seller is that part of your business model? Retail brick and mortar is a different ballgame still right now than pure e-commerce. And so if the big qualifiers, if that's a desire, and if they understand the intricacies of retail and what's required there, I think there's still going to be a lot of interesting experiments, a lot of interesting opportunities. Certainly, Walmart is continuing to retrofit a lot of their centers to be able to be micro fulfillment centers. What goes into those fulfillment centers is still an open question. Will it be items that are kind of like ghost fulfillment centers where you don't necessarily see it in the store, but it's going to be fulfilled out of that store? They're remodeling, I think, over 800 or more than that. I think 2,000 of their stores doing a remodel. Some of the stores they're starting to test. I think 800 or so starting to test more maybe upper market models of restaurants within the store. More feature layout, more branded room layouts,
Yep.
things that would highlight the features and benefits of the products
Mm.
as standalone that might be fulfilled online, those kind of things. So they're experimenting that direction. But how that looks, I think the other side of that coin is it only going to be the current in-store brands
Mm.
that win with Walmart because they're omni-channel? Certainly, it's a difficult needle to thread
Yeah.
for Walmart.
Right.
They have their
Right.
incumbent brands, they have the retail brands that may view eventually these third-party brands as competition directly.
Mm. Yep.
And they've got to figure out how do we do that well, but how do we cater to both well? I predict there's going to be bumps along the road, no doubt.
Sure. Sure. No,
But
that's an
yeah,
interesting challenge, and it presents. I mean, we're talking about what Walmart is leading in, right? And the
yeah.
kind of what got this at least last portion started was the conversation around retail. But in terms of leading with like third party sellers, that's still up in the air. I think it's not clear. I mean, even perhaps debatable for the exact amount of support that Amazon has for third party brands. I think that both Walmart and Amazon are committed, but to what degree, you get into Amazon brands, Amazon having their own, selling their own products, and then potentially Walmart selling their own products as well. And we can talk about that later. But I think one other area, which is the second aspect of this entire conversation, revolves around technology. And that also perhaps is another clue, another hint at exactly how Walmart is setting themselves apart.
Mhm.
So I think that maybe a good question to lead into this is, what does the current state of technology involving Walmart look like? So that could be from Walmart themselves or other technology companies that can be used for Walmart as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of two lenses to look through that is for the seller or for the shopper, and
Mm.
where do those even internally for associates. One sign we see with technology that just does pull in this physical footprint in this store to how they're dealing with omnichannel that's interesting is they're retrofitting all their in-store labels across most stores to be digital
Hmm.
for pricing so that they can get more real-time pricing adjustment on shelf assortment that
Oh,
mirrors maybe the online.
wow.
So some of their technology is around logistics, around those things of how do they actually mirror in-store to online and
Mm.
make sure that shoppers are happy and doing that. So there's some you would probably I would put that maybe as, although that's innovative in some way, it's table stakes if they're
Yeah.
going to be seamless,
Mm.
because shoppers were getting a little upset of saying, well, I see it for this price online, why is it this price in store?
Right.
So doing those things, I think technology, particularly to marketplace sellers and maybe 1P brands, um, Walmart is continuing to, over the last, goodness, 2, 3 years, they've been innovating quickly and rapidly over on the 3P side and 1P side.
Mhm.
On the 1P side, they just rolled out Supplier One, which is item management, kind of a replacement for what was called Item 360 app and Retail Link. That gives a cleaner interface and easier interface on how to keep items up to date with all that Amazon sellers might be familiar with.
Mm.
On the 3P seller center side, they've continued to make it a little more seamless, better reporting out of the seller center. I think the apps, Walmart Connect ad
Mhm.
platform has gotten a lot better to interface with. Although we prefer to use tools like Take-A for that anyway, because there's additional features we get there. Um, as far as third-party apps,
Mhm.
there's fewer for the Walmart marketplace seller.
Yep.
But those that have kind of there were some that entered in and then tried to test it, and then they just kind of pivoted and pulled back out, saying we're just
Mm.
going to focus on Amazon. And so there's maybe a shorter list now, but those that have stuck around are relatively good. So ones we'll use Helium 10 for keyword research,
Mhm.
um, Take-A for PPC management, for dashboarding, for sales, profitability, those things. Merchant Spring
Mhm.
is one we work with a lot of clients as well. There's another one called Power My Analytics,
Mm.
which is if someone's wanting to just get a plug-in for data and put it into a Google Looker Studio dashboard, they can
Yep.
do it that way.
Mm.
There's tools like that. There's just fewer of them,
Mm.
and so that's one thing to consider. As far as technology within the app for
Mhm.
the shopper, that Walmart's investing in. There's a lot of virtual try-on technology they've been rolling out over the last year. So for clothing, you can, if you go into shop, shop for clothes, and then you can actually look at the filter if you want to. If listeners want to try this out, go into the app, and once you've gone into like women's clothes, one of the drop-down filters is virtual try-on, and you'll get an item count of how many products are actually enabled for this right now.
Oh, wow.
You can look at it, give it a shot. You can either take a picture of yourself and have it create a model of you, or choose from virtual models to try on with glasses. So optical, you can do the same. And then what was the third one? There was another one that's augmented reality.
Hair color.
Recently. Hair color. Yes, that was the new one. Yeah. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
So that one's, whether or not you're into hair color, you can try it out. It's interesting. It is
That's
also
cool.
augmented reality. So they're pressing into that through the app experience. And
which,
and for those
to me, even some people might look at those and think that it's like a little gimmicky to try and integrate some of these things. I think the bigger picture thing here, which is it's exciting nonetheless, like regardless of whatever people think, it's just it's a new feature. I think it's interesting that Walmart's playing around with this. I, for one, it wasn't through Walmart, but I actually did purchase a pair of shoes with an AR camera to see what the colorway looked like on my feet, because I was worried it would be too bright, but it looked great, and I bought the shoes because of it. Well, I think the bigger picture thing here is Walmart's support for integrating and trying new features. Like at the very least, they're willing to put some of these features into the app. They're putting resources into the app itself to try and enhance the consumer experience. I think that these the last couple ones at least, I think that's the bigger picture thing that I think people should take away from this.
If I could say one more that is kind of, and we can talk to kind of who's the ideal shopper or where Walmart's heading when I think about the future. To that end, Walmart last year rolled out Walmart Discovery in Roblox. Now, Roblox is not my generation. I'm not playing around in Roblox much, but Gen Z and others are on there quite a bit. And so they have their whole interactive environment in Roblox there. It may be a longer connecting the dots to figure out how will this be a major unlock for Walmart and shoppers, but they're testing and trying. So they just rolled out in April, and I think it was set to be a pilot through May, which was the ability to purchase items in their experience at Walmart Discovery that also get shipped to your door physically. So you could get a hat or headphones or something for your avatar there in Roblox, and then it would move you over to people 13 or older. I think it'd move you over to a Walmart online type experience real quick to complete the purchase and get it shipped to your door as well. So you have the physical accompaniment. So things like that are pretty fascinating. Walmart Realm, they just rolled out too. Experimenting. So they're trying some stuff that just may be the next level unlock.
I love that.
And then in between here and there is the acquisition potentially of Vizio for ad platforms and streaming media. Those things pushing into those areas.
I love the trying. I love the testing new things out. I think that's what people ask for or asking for. And I think Walmart is honestly listening to a lot of these things and is kind of putting their money where their mouth is, saying, okay, we're going to try some of this stuff out. What about AI? That is one last aspect of technology I want to kind of touch on before jumping into what people need to know, the ideal buyer, things like that. Obviously, there's been a lot of buzz recently for Amazon, from them announcing some generative AI features with images integrated directly into Amazon to help people with listings and whatnot. I think Amazon's making strides. Talk to me about Walmart AI and what's happening now. What does that look like?
Yeah, so what you can do, what a shopper is going to experience with AI is AI generated suggestions, much like you'd find in Google search, those types of things, where it's going to suggest, maybe not exactly like Google search, you're going to see suggested categories. So more the semantic type search generation. If you're saying, I want to, I just typed this in earlier today to see how it did it, gifts for a 10-year-old boy, and just see what it would say. And so it'd give a few categories, but then it started creating it started giving me results that I'd scroll through just like a normal keyword based search.
Mm,
But the products were mostly in line with what I'd expect, but it didn't necessarily have products that had those keywords in the title
mm,
or those kind of things. It was more
interesting.
what would be on this occasion. So I see AI playing into it. It's one of the areas that you kind of looking backwards, hindsight's 2020 somewhat with this is Walmart has historically over the past several years placed a higher emphasis on product attributes on
Mm,
listings than maybe Amazon had. Those attributes recently they've been rolling out Spec 5.0, which is attributes were tied to a category level. So previously, when you created items on Walmart at the category level, you'd have maybe if you happen to have a sports related product, you may have is just for the sake of time, just the first thing come to my head, shoe size.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, this is for baseball gloves. So it has nothing to do with shoe size. But at a category level, maybe that was an attribute that could be filled out.
Mm,
They've moved it down to product type, which is much more granular.
yep.
And as they're rolling around those attributes to product type, basically it's setting the stage towards more semantic type search results.
Mm,
So the more complete you have those attributes on the back end, when it's what age range is this likely used for, or all these items, Walmart's going to be able to pull all that into the AI results and logic that's going to give you more semantic results. So
mm.
we see it happening.
Yeah,
They're
that's a
using
big
it in
one.
the app. I think it'll roll out even further.
Mm,
But right now, there's not much in the sense of tools for listings, and I've heard plenty of horror stories on the other platform of AI's best bet
yeah,
at
yeah,
rewriting listings and getting everybody in trouble.
yeah,
There'll
yeah,
be bumps along the road like that, but
yeah. Of
um,
course.
yeah. So it's rolling out. It seems like
That's
it's being rolled out with a view towards not breaking everything as they do it,
yeah.
but certainly investing in that direction.
And I assume the bottom line here is to try and improve the consumer experience first, primarily, and also to maybe give enhancements to sellers as well. But I see that being a play to create a solid foundation to build off of for AI integration for consumers. I think that's a good place to start. And speaking of consumers, let's talk about let's just talk this last category in this conversation is kind of generally just what people listening need to know, what sellers need to know. And we're talking about um, the perspective of someone who's basically like getting their hands in a Walmart, maybe actively selling or just getting started, and they're familiar with Amazon.
Mhm.
Getting started with Walmart, familiar with Amazon. So some of this might have been summarized in other pieces of content that we've done. It's still important nonetheless. What does
Yeah.
the ideal Walmart buyer look like? We talked about grocery. That might be a factor here. There's some
Mhm.
differentiating factors like deal shopping and whatnot. Summarize this for us. What does that shopper look like?
Yeah. So Walmart shopper typically is going to be maybe more price conscious and convenience based. Both Amazon and Walmart are going to be convenience based. Amazon's trained everybody for 2-day delivery or faster. Walmart has also met that expectation. But everyday low price and everyday low cost are two of the main driving values at Walmart. So they're trying to keep costs low, pass on that saving to the shopper,
Mm,
and then reflected on the shopper side is everyday low price. So historically, that meant they were aggressive in their negotiations to get price low for shopper, but shoppers are used to paying a low price in store.
mm,
And online, we're seeing a little bit more elasticity there now. Um, Partly as a result of inflation, what we're seeing is their largest growth in the shopper base for e-commerce was in households with incomes of 100,000 or more.
interesting.
And so that was maybe a trend. And this is where the combination of grocery, and you may be saying, well, I'm not a grocery brand, so what does that mean to me? Shoppers moving to Walmart for their organics and those things because they're getting that everyday low price there in those better for you categories that Walmart's been growing and making those shoppers sticky. So
Mm,
Walmart Plus, all these other things, keeping them around and getting the broader assortment in that shopper's basket. So it's tricky. They're trying to move out of just the basket's just grocery and they go elsewhere for everything else, but they're growing that assortment that way. So I'd say we would still say premium priced products are maybe a challenge in most categories, not every category. as far as volume goes. Certainly there's lower shopper volume, but back to the shopper, $100,000, it's about an even split. Households below 50,000, households between 50 and 100,000, and households with a income of about 100,000 or more. Whereas I think Amazon's would be close to about 50% are households with 100,000 or more, and then the others distributed accordingly. So you've got a more of an even cut across when it comes to discretionary spending. It's going to be tighter, maybe discretionary spending. But with that, generationally, so millennials are I got these stats recently. The millennials, Gen Z is, millennials, I can't keep generations straight in my head. I'm Gen Z, so I just think everybody's like me. Millennials, 35.4% of shoppers are millennials.
Really?
Yeah. Next highest is boomers, so
Wow.
30.4. And then there's kind of everybody's in those teens and 20s, but notably the Gen Z, and we talked about this briefly with Roblox, those things. Gen Z at Walmart, according to this report, was Gen Z was 12.5% of the shoppers at Walmart, and it was only 11.1% of the shoppers at Amazon.
Wow.
So that I feel like that goes counter to a narrative when people thinking who shops at Walmart. People have a picture in their head maybe of boomers and older, whatever that might look like. And what it looks like is Walmart's actively going for this younger generation, and they have, according to some reports, more market share there, or they represent more of the market share of their platform than maybe other platforms.
Wow,
and
that's fascinating. And there's something there in terms of Walmart made a push maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, or is still actively making pushes for TikTok representation, like getting involved with TikTok streamers, TikTok sellers, TikTok content. Like there's a lot going on there trying to tap into those younger audiences. The Roblox example was another really, really good one. There's also this is a small perspective. This is obviously not everyone, but for some Gen Z people, I'm a Zillennial, so I'm kind of tucked in between Millennial and Gen Z. Some Gen Z have an interesting perspective on Amazon, as in like it's kind of the big bad, like in terms of perspective on corporations and whatnot, not wanting to support Amazon. And I could see Walmart swooping in and picking some of those people up. Again, I'm not saying I have that perspective, but there are some Gen Z people that do. And so I think that it's interesting that Walmart's kind of actively like trying to bring those people in. And the numbers are interesting. I mean, to show that there's more Gen Z shopping at Walmart than Amazon, that's fascinating. Anyway, I don't know if I had more to add to that conversation of the seller.
Yeah, and just to correct myself, because I don't want to be misleading, it's a higher proportion of the Walmart base than it is a proportion of comparative to Amazon base. So
not like number of shoppers.
Yeah, so percentage of their current shoppers versus it's not more Gen Z at Walmart than that are at Amazon, but relative to their overall population.
The splits relative to shoppers. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, that's actually a really good clarification.
Yeah.
So one other follow-up to this is how can sellers know, like people that are listening, how can sellers know that their products are good for Walmart? This has been a discussion in a lot of different ways, and I think people are still asking themselves. So how can they know if their product is good for Walmart or not?
It can be challenging to answer the question, because there's some general guidelines we give. But then at the same time, I'll give both. One will say, all right, if you were to go to Walmart right now and type in the keywords you think are going to drive kind of sales to your listings, most likely, you can sort by best sellers instead of best match. You can look there, look at the products and the prices there of those products. A couple things to look at. One, look at how many of those are sold by Walmart or available today for pickup. It's giving you what percentage of those first 2 pages of the results are going to be in-store 1P that you're competing with. And then look at the average price point. And if the price point you can sell at, because another thing for Amazon sellers is this price parity issue.
Yeah.
So identifying how can I sell and not compromise buy box, assuming if Amazon is their primary channel. then price parity is going to be key. And if unless you're making a specific product or product bundle just for Walmart or a separate marketplace, that's got to keep in mind. So at that price point, are you within 50% more of maybe the median price on that page? That's a very broad, that price elasticity can be much higher, maybe in different categories, supplements, other things. But for general merchandise, that's one thing we'd say. That said, for sellers with broad catalogs, I would caution against just assuming your hero items at Amazon must be your hero items at Walmart. What we've seen on several occasions is with a broader assortment put onto Walmart, instead of just taking, everybody's got to balance out. Do I just take my top 10% and devote that time and maybe inventory, whatever it is, if you're going all in, into Walmart and try it out that way? And that may be the strategy that works. Or do I try and take a maybe smaller inventory position or seller fulfilled to start with and bring more of my assortment over to Walmart and try and put maybe a smaller set of units into WFS in order to test what would be my heroes in here? Because we often see that there's a lot of shopper behavior that's just different. And so there's product mix that might do better and be your hero on Walmart that is not your hero on Amazon.
It's complicated. It's tough, and it's tough to know exactly how the buyers are going to respond and how to predict what consumer behavior is going to look like on one marketplace compared to another. And I think it's good to consider all those factors that you mentioned, is just getting in the weeds and testing things out, giving it a proper run with proper support to try and integrate. There's a lot to consider there. And I mean, honestly, this conversation, I think, helps people get in that right mentality as well for approaching this testing. Right. We're kind of running out of time. So I do want to bring up the speculation part, arguably the most fun part of this conversation. You mentioned Vizio, and I'm hoping you can break that down. The main question here to break down, though, is what do you see for the future of Walmart? So what do you think?
Yeah, so I see it with Vizio is interesting. Two things. We've talked about TikTok and Vizio, but we didn't talk about TikTok directly. The first time the potential ban of TikTok came through the conversation prior to this one, Walmart was a serious contender for acquisition of TikTok. And then that kind of went by the wayside. And so this next round, although the recent news is that TikTok's at least saying they're going to create a separate US division for the data, those things, we'll see. But one prediction is I wouldn't be surprised for people to see Walmart continue to make acquisition moves that may be surprising to the general market that has maybe one particular view of Walmart. They are not the Walmart of 2015.
Yeah.
They are a technology enabled. It's in their mantra of who they are. Focus. And so they're going to make moves like that. So if it's not TikTok, it's going to be another surprising move in acquisition. They've been growing significantly, and they're devoting a lot of resource into e-commerce. So I think there's going to be some interesting moves. If it's not the acquisition of TikTok, it'll be acquisitions in kind of things like that. I think there will be some moves like testing of what has been historically viewed as the third-party marketplace products into physical stores in some way. So that'll be iterated, tested. Continued expansion of drone delivery. I haven't tried it myself, but Walmart was out of the gate faster than Amazon in drone delivery. And they're continuing to expand. So I think drones, we may all be hearing a lot more drones flying over our heads in the next 5 years. Is
Probably.
one. And with the acquisition of Vizio, they're not doing it because they need another TV line. They have their own private line of TVs, those things. So they're after the streaming capability there. So I think, with Walmart Plus right now, you can get a free subscription to Paramount Plus, those kind of things. Testing, they're learning from the market there. So I think we're going to see them maybe create their own content down the road. Maybe we talked about that being a wall right now, kind of a hedge of defense for Amazon. I see that hedge coming down to some degree through some type of acquisition. And then the other one would be, one of the things we've seen Amazon do as well is buy with Prime.
Yep.
which was leveraging their financial end and those things. They do multi-channel fulfillment. We're seeing multi-channel fulfillment begin to roll out with Walmart, and also a big area of Walmart Global Tech is their logistics. So they're rolling out logistics support to even companies in Europe for route optimization. I was just hearing about this earlier this week. And so people using their tech for route optimization and delivery routes in Europe and return logistics, all those things. All of that, I don't know what the data involved and data rights to those things, but Walmart's certainly learning from all of that. Not only are they monetizing that tech, they're learning a ton. So deeper, I wouldn't be surprised for expansion further into Europe with e-commerce, those kind of things. They have stores internationally, those things, but different ways to monetize their data is a huge driver for them. They have a lot of data. So we'll see some of those things come out.
Yeah, the all of that is really interesting. Again, the root of this conversation goes back to how Walmart is setting itself apart, how it's leading in certain ways. And I think, honestly, just zooming out and talking about any marketplace, what a marketplace does with the data that it has access to. I think AI has exploded, it's blown up, but really the capability that the tangible difference that AI makes for data aggregation, but also understanding that data, I think as time goes on, truly like we'll see the result of that data being digested and implemented. And we have two powerhouses, Amazon and Walmart, that have two very different large sets of data. Walmart's data connected to retail, connected to fulfillment, return, shipping, and Amazon's too, and Amazon in a lot of different ways. And as those two powerhouses digest all the data that they have access to and understand and make moves based on that data, we'll see a lot more clearly, I think, where each of those groups is headed. Perhaps some in the same direction and perhaps some not. But I think this conversation gets us a little bit closer to understanding and unpacking exactly how Walmart's doing now and also where they're going. So, Ryan, thank you for unpacking all this with us. There's a ton here. If people want to follow you and reach out to you, where should they go?
The place I'm most active would be LinkedIn. So you can look me up there, Ryan King, Blue Rise, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You can email me, ryan@bluerise.com. I'll respond there as well. But those are probably the two best channels.
Okay. I'll link your info in the show notes. Ryan, thank you for joining us on Human in the Loop, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Cameron. Great as always.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Human in the Loop. Like I said in the episode, I'll put Ryan's information in the show notes below. I really hope you found value in this episode. I think there are some really good things to take away from this conversation. This conversation updates my perspective on where Walmart stands in the battle of the marketplaces. I think Walmart really is starting to and successfully setting itself apart. I think there are some ways that we can make use of this as sellers. And I think this helps hopefully put Walmart into perspective for how you should approach it when selling your products. So thanks so much for joining me again today, and I look forward to seeing you on the very next episode.